Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Project Egg episode, the #1 podcast for educating and inspiring entrepreneurs to turn their dreams into reality. Today, we have an extraordinarily special guest. I want to welcome Amanda Dake. How are you doing today, Amanda?
I'm great, Ben. Thanks. How are you?
Great. Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Now, let's dive right in. First question for you today, Amanda, is what is your story?
Oh, well, it's pretty exciting, really. I am a mompreneur, I guess you could say. That's kind of okay, right? I started out my career path. I went the linear route, right, of like high school, college, master's degree. So I got a master's degree in education, and I was a high school science teacher for 12 years.
Wow.
And after the 12th year, I thought, this isn't doing it for me. So looking back, I see that I always had my hand in all kinds of little projects and little side hustles, if you will, throughout the school years when I was teaching. And I decided to just kind of take the leap in 2011, and I quit my career. It wasn't even just a job, right? I had gone to school for many years. I was really good at what I was doing, and so I was leaving my career behind and starting something completely new. And that's whenever I got into this online world. So from science teacher to marketing expert, how does that happen? People ask me that all the time, and I don't have a great answer for it other than I kept just saying yes to opportunities, right? Like, okay, let's try it. Yeah, I'll do that. Yes, I'll do that. I got out of my comfort zone all the time and just challenged myself to learn everything I could about this online world. I started doing social media for a few local businesses here. I'm in Oklahoma, so I'm really close to Oklahoma City. So started doing some social media and some website maintenance and blog posting for some restaurants and bars actually here in Oklahoma City. And from there, it just kind of started taking off, and it allowed me to put myself out there even more and gain confidence in what I was learning and what I was doing. Russell Brunson, his book, Expert Secret, says you don't have to know everything about your subject. You just have to stay basically one chapter ahead of where the people that you want to follow you are right now. And so that's kind of what I did. I just kept staying one step ahead of everybody else. And I just did it, right? So in 2014 is when ClickFunnels launched their beta platform, and a client of mine was going through Garrett J. White's warrior training, and Garrett J. White was an early adopter for ClickFunnels. He doesn't just teach mindset and relationships and things like that. He also teaches business. And whenever he started using ClickFunnels, the people that were in his group were also encouraged to start using this amazing tool. Well, my client, and now who happens now to be my mentor and coach, said, hey, we're going to start using this. And that's whenever I was introduced to the world of ClickFunnels back in 2014. And from there, it's all she wrote. Now I've been certified twice as a consultant with ClickFunnels, and I've been able to travel, all over the world, teaching people how to use this tool, building out businesses with this tool for other people and for myself. So it's been a crazy, amazing journey over the last 7 years growing this little empire I've got here.
So I want to talk about earlier on in your history, in your chronology. Can you talk about what sort of home you grew up in, and what was your childhood really like?
Oh, that's awesome. I grew up here in Oklahoma. I don't know, probably not very many people have been here. My friend and one of my business partners, Cody Meter, says that there's only 7 people that live here, which is not true. He says, and I'm one of them. No, it's not that small here, but it is nice. it is nice and small. People call it the flyover state because you usually just fly right on over. So no, I grew up in a pretty traditional home. My parents were both educators. My mom taught college and my dad taught high school science, just like I did. He was very disappointed when I went into that field of study. He didn't think I had paid any attention to him in his as I was growing up. Whenever I told him that I was going to major in, education and biology, he basically reacted like, "Haven't I taught you anything?" Like all those years. But no, I'm the oldest of three. I have a younger sister and a younger brother, and they're both entrepreneurs as well. My brother is 6 years younger than I am. He and his wife, they were high school sweethearts. She's basically like a sister too, because she's just been a part of our family for so long. But they own 2 different restaurants here in Oklahoma City, and my sister owns a high-end wedding bakery, and she does high-end desserts and for events and things like that. So I don't know where this gene came from. Like we all have this entrepreneurial bug, right? We don't conform to the norm. And so, but growing up, it was just a traditional type situation. We had the house and we lived out of town a little bit on about 2 acres. We've always had, dogs and I don't know, it was just normal. I started working at age 14. That was probably where things started changing for me. I just wanted to earn my own money and not be dependent upon my parents. Being educators, I think my dad made like $11,000 a year or something like ridiculous, right? And I knew that I never wanted to be a source of struggle or like, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like I wanted my own stuff, okay? And I didn't want to have somebody give it to me. So I started working when I was 14, and ever since then, I've just been, out there doing my thing. So I was the only one of the siblings to finish college and then obviously go on to get a master's degree. And even I have 15 hours towards my PhD. And but I knew that wasn't it was just my linear, like perfect first child path, right? Like, oh, I'll just do the thing and be the honor student and do what I think I'm supposed to do, especially as, a nice, good Oklahoma girl. And it worked for a while, and then it didn't. So I changed. But I never have left the state other than 1 year. I did a research fellowship at the University of Florida for a summer. I gathered alligator eggs from live nests out on airboats and did surgery on African clawed frogs for a summer. It was very, very sciencey, right? And from there, I moved to Charleston, South Carolina. I've always loved being by the water, and I decided to go do that. And it was like, if you've seen Dangerous Minds, the movie with, is it Michelle Pfeiffer? She's an English teacher in a pretty rough school. I was like Michelle Pfeiffer of science teaching in Charleston, South Carolina. So the internet was pretty new at this time. It was back in 1999, and I knew this is where I wanted to be. I wanted to be by the water, and I needed a job. So, I took a job as a high school science teacher over the phone without having visited a school, without ever having, done any kind of research. Like there were like websites and stuff were just getting started. So, I guess, I've always just been kind of like, yeah, let's try it. But other than that, that lasted a year. And then I came back to Oklahoma, and I've just really been here ever since.
So you mentioned how you kind of have an attitude like, okay, let's try it. Do you think that sort of willingness to experiment and to try new things, do you think that has impacted your life as an entrepreneur?
Absolutely. If you don't have the guts or belief in yourself, the confidence to say, I'm going to go for this. And I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but I know I can handle it, whatever it is. I'm a recovering control freak, right? It's a daily struggle for me to not know what is going to be the outcome of every single decision that I make, and learning to be okay with and be able to roll with whatever punches are thrown at me. I attribute a lot of that too to my coaching that I've received from Seth. He's been my coach for 3 years, knowing that problems are going to be thrown at you on a daily basis. And it's just how you are able to handle them and react to them that's going to set you apart or allow you to continue to move forward. There's been things that have happened to me, I'm sure, that would knock other people, off their feet, and they'll have a hard time getting up. But because of my mindset and because of the training, I guess you could say, that I've gone through with him, I'm able to know, I'm already expecting some crazy thing to happen. I just don't know what it's going to be. And so once it hits, it's not a surprise necessarily anymore. It's just like, all right, this is the thing that I was kind of expecting. Now, how do I go forward? So, but yeah, you got to be able to put yourself out there a little bit and get out of your comfort zone. Because if you don't, you're just going to just kind of stay stagnant. You're not going to be able to grow or experience new things. You're just going to stay still. And that's okay for some people. It's not okay for me.
So as you were growing up, and I believe you mentioned 14, you had your first job. What sort of core values did you have going through that traditional path of high school, college, get good grades, masters, and then into teaching? What were your core values like, and how did you evolve as a person over that time?
I mean, my core values were, I don't even know if it would be core values, but my something I read, it was Brene Brown. She has the 3 Ps, and she calls it a pleaser, a producer, and a perfectionist. And that's me to a T. I'm getting better about some of that, but back, as a teenager and through college and even early adult, definitely pleaser, producer, perfectionist. And I don't know if it's from being an oldest child, or where it came from. I don't know where it started. I didn't have any pressure from my parents or family members or anything like that. And I don't know, I just was born this way, I guess. I don't know. But my core values were, at that time, I knew what success was. So as a teenager, to me, success was being able to buy my own car or buy my own clothing, right? The designer things that you want as a high school student, to have that independence, I guess, is what it really boils down to. I mean, I moved out of my parents' house when I turned 18, like right after, and I had an apartment. It wasn't because I wanted to get out of there. Like, there was no animosity. It was just like, all right, this is what I want to do. I just need to be on my own doing my thing. So I think I moved home probably 2 or 3 times in between that, moving out, moving back, whatever. But I think just wanting to have this independence I wasn't out there to set an example for anybody, I just wanted to do my thing. So success as a student, as a high school student, what I was getting at was, just having a car, buying my own vehicle, paying for my own way. Success after college was, getting the job, and then, finding the husband and having the house and then the children. Like, that is when I talk the linear path, to me, that's what that is. It's like high school, college, things in step and order, and you do the thing. And so, yeah, if I was measuring success based on reaching the pinnacle of the linear path, then I was the most successful person that there ever was. But my definition of what I wanted for my life and for the life of my children just changed back in about 2011. And it was no longer okay for me to be status quo. And success to me it was different. I knew there was more, that I could either help more people. Obviously, I was helping people daily as a teacher, right? I impacted hundreds of kids over the 12 years that I did that. But for some reason, I knew there's just a higher purpose, whatever that is. I'm still on that journey trying to really figure out what that is. But I know there's more. I want to impact more people. I want to help more people through whatever it is, growing their businesses or making these choices like I've made, just to like go ahead and go for the thing. So yeah, core values. It really was just I think me being a product of my 3 Ps that Brene Brown describes: being that perfectionist, being that performer, and being that people pleaser. Like I said, I'm still there. It's just not quite as bad.
And I love what you said about being a recovering control freak. Like, I can be the same way sometimes. So very much relate to that. So you mentioned how back in, I believe you said 2011, there was a shift.
Yeah.
And there was a shift in I believe you used the term status quo. Mm-hmm. And I love that term. Can you talk about what that shift actually was and really drill down into what that shift was? And it's a 2-part question, because I also want to know what led to that shift. What caused that shift in you?
Well, I think as I was blossoming, I guess, into this adult person, right? In 2011, 2010, I'm trying to think how old I was. I don't even know. How long ago was that? I was in my 30s, okay? My children, I have 2 boys. They were both in school at that time, whether it was preschool or like very low elementary school. I was spending so much time giving all my time and energy to other people's children. A light bulb switch is like, I'm missing out on some of the stuff that I really want to be here for, my own kids. And I know at first I think, oh, well, gosh, that sounds so selfish. Like, my kids are fine. Like, I see them in the evenings and they're taken care of. Maybe these other kids need me more. But it wasn't okay with me. So like my son, I remember this. My son was in a little play or musical, in 1st grade. And I was very fortunate where I was teaching that it was like on a campus. And so I was teaching in one building right here, and his building was just down the sidewalk. It was a really beautiful private school here in Oklahoma City. Wonderful, wonderful place. And I had to find somebody to cover my class to go watch his play. And I was like, I didn't like that. It's like, I'm his mom, and I don't want to have to sacrifice those types of moments, right? Now, saying that, I'm grateful for the opportunity that I had at that school, and I did get to watch him grow through a couple of his lower elementary years because I had such close proximity to his building. Like, a lot of parents don't have that luxury, even as they're working. So I'm not saying like it wasn't a great situation. It was perfect at the time. But something flipped of like, hey, I don't want to sacrifice this anymore. And I'm going to be honest here, a big part of my decision was based on money. And if I didn't bring in my income, that would have changed our lifestyle dramatically. But then as I started really digging into how much really would it take for me what do I have to replace to do this, to step out of this career and just stay home. I'm not a stay-at-home mom, by the way. Like, I know there's like, I love people that can do that. That has never been me. I'm not like, I'm just not that person. I'm a very busy body and very involved parent, but just different than the traditional stay-at-home mom. But anyway, I came up with, I only have to replace $400 a week. And that to me was like, once I started putting it on paper, I'm like, well, that's BS. Like, I've been doing this for 12 years and I have hours towards my PhD and I'm only bringing home $1,600 a month. Are you kidding me? So it fired me up a little bit. It's like, I got to do something else. Like, I'm giving up all my time with my kids for pennies. And so that was the big shift, really. It was just like, I'm having to struggle to get to see my kids during the day. And then the monetary value, the payoff for that really became not worth it. And so I fixed it. I had to just figure something else out. Now, the funny thing about it is a lot of moms will choose to stay home when their kids are at home and they're little. I started staying home when both my kids were in school full time. So that was a little bit kind of, I struggled with that a little. It's like, oh, well, why now? Like, my kids are not in the house and I'm now here all the time. But it worked. I did a lot of volunteering at their school when I made that transition out of being in a classroom myself. I still spent a lot of time with them at school, eating lunch and, you know, going to the library and field trips and all that kind of thing. So it worked out really well.
So once you did decide, all right, now's the time, I'm ready. That switch had been flipped, if you will, and you were like, all right, it's go time. What steps did you take next?
Well, I had to figure out what the hell I was going to do to make $400 a week, right? That was all I cared about at the moment. Like, okay, if I'm leaving this, it wasn't even about health insurance or all the other grown-up stuff that you got to deal with, right? It's like, I got to replace this money. What is that going to look like? And I'm going to say this. I was married at the time, and my ex-husband now, he was, because we were married and because he was also employed, he had a very good job. It gave me a safety net to be able to do what I wanted to do. So I am grateful for that, for sure. But replacing my income was priority. And because I had been in education for so long and I only had to replace a little bit, I just started kind of putting my my feelers out for whatever I could find. And a friend of mine who was also a parent of a student in my son's class, she worked for a prominent online school. It's a national online school that, you know, back in 2011, that's kind of when that was an up and coming thing where kids could start taking classes at home instead of having to go to actual public school to take them. And they needed people, because it was really so new, they needed people to write curriculum and to test out their systems and things like that. So I was really fortunate to be able to step, before I even ended my teaching contract, to step into a role writing for them, which replaced my income instantly. I mean, and I was able to do it from my kitchen table. Because, wow, you know, I didn't have an office. I never needed an office before, right? So I had a laptop and I had a kitchen table, and that's where I started writing curriculum for this online school program. I don't really want to mention them, and then, I mean, they're amazing. And then from there, that I was able to do my work on my schedule, which was something totally new to me, because before I had to even just schedule when I would leave the classroom to use the restroom or to eat, you know, your 15-minute lunch break or whatever it was. And so to have this freedom to be able to go up to the kids' school or to go to the grocery store during the week or to do all these other things, it was like, wow, why didn't I do this like a long time ago? I had the luxury to have that happen like right before I left. So I never had a gap in income or work. Like, it's sometimes not even about the income. It's just about having that purpose every day to get up, right? It's like having a reason to get out of bed and goals to achieve for the day or for the week. I couldn't imagine not having that now, for sure, but ever. I've always had some purpose, right, for my day. And from there, I was able to have the security and the confidence to approach businesses and say, hey, I can help you with this thing, whatever it is, their Facebook or whatever it was at the time. And if they said yes, that's awesome. If they said no, I'm okay, because I still have, some income on the other side. And so that was like how it happened. But I'll say this, none of that would have happened had I not made the decision to make a change. Something had to happen to me to say, I'm done doing this thing I don't like anymore. And life's too short to do things you don't like. So if I had never said, I want something different, I am going to, and I put in my notice at my job, I think back like in February of that 2011. And then, my contract went through the end of the school year. So it's almost like I just told the universe, like, I'm moving on, and I'm making it known to everybody that's employed me, everybody that I've worked with, everybody in my family, whatever, that I'm making a change. I don't know what that change is going to be. I don't know what is going to happen, but because I made that choice and declared it, and I guess set my intention, I didn't know what I was doing at the time because I wasn't in that personal development type space. It opened the door, allowed these other opportunities to start coming in. Making that declaration, making that choice opened up the possibilities. Otherwise, if I had just stayed there and just been miserable and unhappy, nothing else would have come to me. Like I was open to see whatever was possible.
So you said that you had this safety net and you were going out and approaching businesses about helping them with their social media. Well, I have another two-part question for you. Okay. One, how did you decide to pursue social media? What about that business model attracted you? And then when you did start, how did you figure out what you needed to do in order to become successful at that specific craft, if you will?
So social media was, I'm trying to think of the year. It was when Twitter kind of first came out. And as a teacher, why do I need any of that? Like, whatever. For some reason, though, I got really interested in Twitter, and I got really good at it. And whenever Twitter first came out, it was totally awesome. And it was a way to really connect with people. It's changed a lot, obviously over the years, but when it first came out, and I'm still very close with a lot of these people that were in this kind of Oklahoma City Twitter community. Gary Vee even came to Oklahoma City to launch one of his books. When he was launching one of his books, I don't know if that'd ever be possible again. And the only reason it happened was because we had all of us little Twitter people in this little community tweeting him constantly to come in and do this. Gosh, I wish I remember. I'd have to go back and search how far back that was. But it's now that I think about it, that's pretty impressive. But Gary Vee obviously was new at that time too, or in this space. So he was kind of an up and comer. But we started having these tweet ups instead of meetups. They were tweet ups. So if you were on Twitter and you're connected with these people, we would have local businesses, restaurants mainly, would have these kind of happy hour times where they donate the food and you'd buy your drinks and there'd be door prizes. And it was where you really first started to connect with people in person after you had connected online. So that's normal for us now. It's like, oh, I follow you. Oh, I feel like I know you. This back then, it was probably 2009, 2010. It was you follow these at so-and-sos and you finally meet in person. You feel like you know them because it was such a small, intimate, personal experience on Twitter at that time. So I got really good at Twitter and saw the power of it. And then, and Facebook was, Facebook is kind of my generation's thing. So that we were already pretty good at that. But the thing was, businesses didn't really know how to use it. And to me, it was just all about being consistent and just broadcasting what you're doing. And because I had this confidence of being kind of in this Twitter community, even though I wasn't a business owner at the time, that just gave me kind of the courage to go out and start helping these businesses. So I didn't set out with the intention to run like a social media agency or anything, but I think before before it was all said and done, I had about 10 accounts that I was managing on social media for local businesses. And they weren't all just in the restaurant space. There was some fitness and there was some like massage and stuff like that. It just started to kind of grow. So yeah, it was totally awesome. But it was just discovering a platform and just kind of diving into it and meeting and networking with the people that were also interested in that as well.
So once you had gotten to that that level where you were helping out, 10 different businesses or 10 different accounts, if you will, how did that then leverage into the next thing you did? And what was that chronology? Because you mentioned that you eventually got into creating funnels and working with ClickFunnels a lot. And you mentioned that one of your then clients kind of introduced you to ClickFunnels, but what really caused that shift to go from the social media into the funnels? And do you still do social media? Like, how does that all work for you now?
Right. No, I do not do any social media. Like I do a little bit for myself, but other than that, no, not for clients. Yeah. So my client at the time owned a fitness franchise. And on the back end of that franchise's website, they had, it was pretty robust. I mean, it wasn't too sophisticated, but they had a way that you could put in blog posts and you could get information that they had put up, kind of like swipe files. You could take some of that stuff and put it out on your own website, which was hosted by them. But they also had in the back end of their website, they had a way to build these landing pages, right? To do these promotions for fitness, like 6-week challenge or women, whatever it was. They had all these templates. You just kind of customize it and put it out there, whether you just put it out on your website or you run Facebook ads were fairly new. This was back in 2013, probably. Facebook ads were really up and coming. And I started doing those because it was very simple when Facebook ads were new, right? There was like now I would not touch them at all. I have plenty of experts around me to handle all of that. But at the beginning, it was just me and I learned all of it. And so it was these landing pages, right? And these targeted websites to send people to. And the only thing they could do is one thing. They just sign up or they don't, right? And so that was before ClickFunnels. That we had integrated into a program called Infusionsoft, right? So me coming from teaching school and now learning all the social media stuff, I've now not mastered, but I got really good at Facebook ads and Infusionsoft, like things that most people wouldn't want to touch with any length of a pole, right? So when that client with the landing pages on the back end of the fitness website paired with Infusionsoft, when he went through Garrett's training and then said, here, we're going to start doing ClickFunnels, that's really what triggered it. And so I was like, all right, let's do it. Like, I've already learned these other things, might as well learn something else. And as I kept going, I became more confident in my abilities. I was learning things that a lot of people had no idea on how to operate or navigate, especially in Infusionsoft. That was a big confidence builder, and Facebook ads. When I got into ClickFunnels, of course, I bought Russell's book, .com Secrets, and he then started following me around on the internet, right? And he was promoting his very first live event, which was in 2015 in the spring in Las Vegas. It's Funnel Hacking Live. And I had never been to Las Vegas before. I had never been to a live event before. I had never traveled alone, right? Well, that's not really true. I did go to Florida and South Carolina by myself, but like going to a conference and personal development and professional development, all that was completely like totally not in my wheelhouse. But I was like, I'm just going to do it. And Obviously Seth, he wasn't my coach at the time. We were right on the transition between client and coach, right? And when I signed up, I went to that funnel hacking live. I had already been using ClickFunnels, so I knew a lot more than most people in the room did, because I had already dug in and started running campaigns and building stuff. At the event, I knew one couple at the event, and I had been doing some ClickFunnels stuff for them. I don't know how I even found, I guess ClickFunnels page on Facebook was already a thing. I don't remember, because it was so long ago, over 3 years ago. But at least I had somebody I knew that was at least going to be in the building. So I show up to this event, and I'm like, I've never been to a place where they're selling things from stage, or like I don't know, there was cars like Ferraris or Lamborghinis or stuff like in Vegas, in the room, like, whatever. This is crazy.
Yeah.
I remember I met Henry Kaminsky there. Like, I don't know, it's just such a cool thing. And the main part about this, though, I put myself out there. I was like, all right, I'm going to go to this thing, see what happens. And just because I put myself in that position, and I knew a lot. I won't say I knew more than most people in the room, but I knew I could compete at that level. And Russell offered his sell at that event was, I believe, Inner Circle. And he also had a program called Ignite, which was like the basic part, like Inner Circle. And then you could go up to Inner Circle. And then he also offered certification for ClickFunnels. And it's like, oh man, it was several $1,000s. And I was like, oh, I've never spent that kind of money on myself or on anything I've done, right? And I remember it was my friends Lisa and Lucho that were there with me. And this is a story too that I told in a video that I made for Russell, and he used my story to promote certification. I think I had 3 million views on Facebook with this video. But and I just talked to Lisa about this last week. I was in Vegas again. She's like, they were back right beside me. They were just pointing at me like, go do it, do it, do it. And I did it. And I signed up for certification and traveled to Boise after that in August, worked with Russell one-on-one in our group, and learned, from the people at ClickFunnels how to use the software and, how to promote yourselves as a funnel expert or builder or whatever. And it's crazy. It just all kind of happened. It was never supposed to happen, right? I didn't set like, oh, I'm going to go here and I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to get out of my comfort zone every single day. No, it was just little steps at a time. Like, okay, I'm going to go to Vegas. Like, it was tough. Oh, and for certification, signing up, my oldest son, he was starting middle school. At like his first day of middle school was during that certification event. And I made that sacrifice to continue to go forward. And, we talked about it. It was fine, but it was hard as a mom, especially after leaving my job teaching so I could be more present with my kids. And then now I'm out. That was tough. But yeah, it's all because I put myself out there, right? And just took those little leaps with encouragement from people around me. I mean, I couldn't do it by myself. None of this has happened alone.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So, it seems like over the years you've been acquiring some really, really incredible skills, and it seems like now the main focus is on building automated sales funnels. So can you talk about, and keeping in mind that this is the sort of interview that it's evergreen. This content will live on way past our years. How can we, and I'm speaking we as the audience and as an entrepreneur, how can we implement automated sales funnels in our business?
Well, this is my favorite part, my favorite thing to do. And if you see behind me, like, I can even move my thing around here a little bit. I've got like crazy stuff happening all over my office. My favorite thing to do is to take your business or your idea and build out what you see behind me. I go through a really long process, but it can work for practically any business. And the more that you're able to automate certain aspects of how your business operations are run, it gives you and your team the freedom to really dive in to do the things that you want to do in your business. Nobody wanted to sit there and write a bunch of emails. Like, nobody said, I am going to start my own business and all I want to do all day long is talk on the phone and send emails. Nobody says that. I mean, if they do, that's great. You got to have all kinds to run the world. But most of us did not get into our businesses to run some of these operations. And there are tools and systems in place now. And there's always improvements. Like every day, there's new stuff coming out of ways to make our lives more, I don't want to say automated, but simpler, so we can get back to doing the things that we love to do. And so that's really what I help businesses do. There's certain ways to structure a business that allow you to step out of those operations and get back into why you started your business in the first place. And so when it boils down to it, yeah, I help with systems and integrations and funnels and ads or whatever, but it all boils down to helping somebody get back to the root of why they want to do what they're doing and help them get back to that place where they can create again, where they can be fulfilled again, happy again, and making the money that they want to make. It doesn't mean that they need to be millionaires. Not everybody's in this to be 7-figure, 8-figure, or more earners. We all have our own reasons for doing what we do. And but that's my overall goal, really. So if I can help a business owner or a business entity automate some of their processes and get back to why they started doing what they do in the first place, then I've succeeded.
So you mentioned how you have a really long process that you go through in order to really create these funnels and align all these pieces and put them all together. Well, for somebody who might not know even where to begin when putting together a funnel, you're the expert here. Can you kind of bring us through that process so that we can, as you're talking about it, we can be saying, okay, well, that fits with my business here, and we can kind of implement in our minds as you're going through it. I think that'd be a really cool way to really kind of show off how much you do know about it. But also for us as the audience, as the recipients of your knowledge to really be able to implement in real time.
Yeah. So anybody can build a funnel. Okay. It's the true story. Anybody can either build it themselves or hire somebody to build it for them. Or you don't even need to build one. There's templates out there. You can just go get one of the templates, right? But it all boils down to the purpose behind it and your goals. And so really, whenever I start working with a client, that's really where our first conversation is. Like, what does success look like to you? It looks like something different to everybody. So success could look like I would like to have more time, in my day, or whatever their overall goal is for this funnel, for this project. We start there. Like, what do you want? And that's a very powerful question and can lead to very powerful answers. And it's also a question that people avoid answering. And I avoided answering it for a really long time too. And I'll be honest, I have to go back and ask myself that question often because it changes, it evolves. So the first thing I talk to them is, what do they want? And then we talk about money. And a lot of people don't want to talk about money. But that's a big part of what it is we're building. We want to make money. We also want to share value and give back and whatever it all is. But we have to talk about money and what are the goals. So I love when people come up and like they're brand new in business and they're like, well, I want to make $100,000 a month. Okay, that's awesome. Like, I don't ever squash anybody's goals or dreams. But I also say, how much are you making right now? And so if they're not making anything yet, I bring them down a little bit and like, let's go from 0 to 1. Okay. and then from 1 to 2, and then we will stair step up. I think a big problem is, especially in the online space, people think, oh, well, it's so possible. I've seen all these other people do it. You can just go in and you can just sell your stuff and make $100,000 a month. Yeah, I mean, you can, but it's not as easy as it looks. And it takes a lot of little stair steps to get there. So I guess you could say when my process begins, it's more of a, like not even a counseling session, but it's just kind of a, let's get the mindset right. Let's get the goals aligned. Let's get our measure of success and then build upon that. And so behind me, you'll see here, I've got like these little diagrams, and it's a 3-prong system basically. And I did not make it up. It was from, my good friend, Eric Dake, taught it to me, and he learned it also from another individual, and they have a podcast called The 3-Month Vacation, and I can't remember their name right now, but it's awesome. Anyway, it's basically almost every business can structure in this way to be able to work one-on-one with people in a one-to-many, like a group setting, and then a leveraged way. And so I like to get people thinking in those 3 terms. Like when we start our businesses, when I started mine, everything was done in a one-to-one scenario. And we all know that's really how a lot of us have to start. And you got to be able to get results. You got to be able to get some testimonials, and you got to be able to learn the process on your own. But that's also not easy to scale. You can't scale it. You only have so much time to work with people one-on-one. So then you start thinking, okay, well, maybe I can just help people in a group setting. Okay, that's great. But you also have to show up at a certain time and be present and do the thing. And it's not scalable either, right? And so then we start looking at the leverage piece. Like, so that's where kind of online courses or books or things like that come into play. And a lot of businesses don't think that they would fit into all of those categories, but surprisingly, most businesses can fill all 3 of those prongs. So whenever we start going to that process, that's where we take, okay, their success looks like $10,000 a month, like in a realistic way. How much of that money needs to come from each one of those legs of their business? And so we start really just structuring it all out and building out the framework for how to get the certain number of clients we need each month or each year or whatever that looks like with each one of those prongs. So it's not something that I just have an hour Zoom call with someone and say, okay, well, we're ready to start building out your systems. Usually I do this in a day or 2 process in person. I've had people come here to my home in Oklahoma, which I'm going to start doing a lot more of actually. Or I've traveled all over the country to help people in this manner too. So there's something really powerful about meeting people in person. And this isn't just something like, okay, we're just going to build your thing and you're off on and running. It's a very intimate, personal experience that you ask some really hard questions and you ask, you're digging deeper than most people would do whenever they think about their business, building their business. But it's important and it's necessary. And I think that's what sets my process apart from a lot of other people, because I don't just go in and go, okay, yeah, here, I'll just build it out for you. I've done that. It doesn't work. You have to do this work before you build out the systems for the systems to actually function.
So it seems like, to just kind of summarize a little bit, because we just got a ton of information, and actually for anybody who's listening, for everybody who's listening, I highly encourage you to go back and listen to this process a couple times and really make sure that these things that Amanda is saying, that these things are being absorbed in, that they're really sinking in, because these are things that, while they may seem like fundamentals and they may seem like things that, oh yeah, that makes sense, when you actually start implementing on them and you actually start taking action based off of the things that Amanda is saying, it could change your life and it could absolutely change your business. So go back and listen a couple times. That being said, I want to try to summarize and make sure that I understand it, and therefore, we can have a little bit more clarity before we keep going. So it seems like the first thing we need to do is figure out our purpose. We need to figure out, what are we trying to accomplish? Why do we want to do that? What's our end goal? What's our big goal? From there, we want to figure out, okay, now we know our goals. Let's tie a monetary value to that. How much do we want to be making? How much are we making now? How much do we need to be making to, feed our families and do the things that we want to do to match our lifestyle? Then we talk about the 3 different levels, the one-to-one, one-to-many, and then using leverage to accomplish the things we want to accomplish. And we ask ourselves really, really hard questions to figure out, okay, how are these things working in our business? How is my time being allotted to these different things? How can I use my time more effectively? And we ask ourselves these questions, these very difficult questions, not because we like pain, but because we need to ask them, and we need to get these things very clear and understood by ourselves in order to then move forward, and in order to make everything else make sense, to then be able to succeed. Am I following so far?
Absolutely. Perfect.
Okay, so then once we've asked ourselves these hard questions, we have our purpose, we know how much money we want to make, we figured out the different ways we can help people, and we've asked ourselves these hard questions and answered them. Where do we go from there?
Well, we go from there based on whatever products or services you have to fill those levels. And not everybody will have something for each one of the prongs, right? And we start building one at a time. You can't build your entire empire at once, right? We got to start with a layer and then add to it and add to it and add to it. And we learn a lot of stuff on the way. And that's why I like to ask, what am I doing? What do I want? Often, because it changes, right? Based on something I've learned. I've tried something, I didn't like it, or maybe I tried something, it's like, wow, I really love this. So we look at what products or services we have to offer, and then we start building out the systems either to fill that pipeline or to fulfill what it is that we're trying to deliver. And I mean, that's really all it is. And I know it sounds like, oh, well, that's all there is to it. But it's really not as complex as you think if you just do the foundational work first. And we know that it's a process, and it's going to take time. We're not going to be building this overnight, right? It's going to be done with purpose and intent, and it's going to be done right the first time. So basically, yeah, we just pick one of the prongs and we go for it.
So typically, and this may be getting a little bit too technical, and I want to make sure that this stays evergreen and this stays relevant for people, regardless of when you're listening to this. But which stage do you typically see people starting on, and how do you know which stage is appropriate to start putting your efforts towards in the beginning?
Well, it just depends where somebody is in their business. So I used to work with a lot of just startup entrepreneurs, right? They wanted to get out there. They wanted to leave their day job or whatever, just like I did, right? But I didn't do that with a funnel. I did it differently. And so I don't work with a lot of startups now. I mainly work with people that have a business in place and they just want to scale, or they just want to implement some systems to then get back to the reason why they're doing what they're doing. So, but going to the startup type business, and it could be when I say startup, I'm talking less than 6 figures a year. Okay. It could be brand spanking new, or you could just be in here for a while and you're just not making the gains that you want to make. I start with the basics of just the power of email list building, right? And why they need to have something like that, why they need to capture information of people that are interested in their service or product, and then what to do with that information. So I offer things called email marketing masterclasses, where we go through the basics. And that's like, even seasoned marketers need refreshers on this kind of stuff. I, for one, still am not an expert at email marketing my own list and my own self, right? I think we all kind of do that, where we focus on building other people's businesses so much we just leave ours behind. It's kind of the web designer that doesn't have the website, right? So, right. But it's okay. It happens a lot. But so it depends where a person is or where a business is in their journey where we begin. So if they don't have a way to capture emails or whatever, then I'll put them in my little email masterclass bucket, right? If they're past that and they just really need some like new onboarding systems and they need a way to service their current clients a little bit better, fulfill on the things that they've promised, then we look at that and we figure out what that entails and what's needed for that. So really, it just depends on where somebody is and what their overall goals are, what they need. If somebody just needs a new way to get more people, more leads into their system so then they can offer them services or a sales call or whatever. So we build out the systems to do that, whether it's just a simple landing page with a sales video and then maybe an application on the other side of it. Maybe it's a webinar, maybe it's an auto webinar if you have something that converts. It just really, everybody's so unique. There's not just a cookie cutter process for every single business.
That makes a lot of sense. And so, again, just to summarize and make sure, it seems like we really need to analyze, where we are in as far as, what level we're at, and really just make sure that we're following the best path forward that makes the most sense for our business.
Exactly.
So if you're willing to, I think it'd be really cool to do kind of a live case study, where I'll be the guinea pig and maybe we can talk about
these. Ben, I call these funnel hot seats.
well, that's an awesome name. Okay, so maybe we could talk a little bit about the platform itself, so Project Egg, and as a live case study, so people know for sure that you are the expert here, and that
you're consulting. What is this? I'm just kidding.
So basically, let's rip it apart. I'm happy to be embarrassed on air. That's totally fine with me. But in an effort to truly provide value to the audience and value to everybody watching, I think it'd be awesome to do like a live case study type thing. So if you're game for that, then let's do it.
Right now?
Yeah, right now.
Okay.
Okay.
It's going to be a condensed version because this is like I said, this is a long process, right? But
totally.
We'll dive in rapid fire style and give you a couple pointers or a couple of implementable action steps to take to get you on the path where you want to go. How about that?
Awesome. And thank you for being so gracious about doing this. I know I didn't tell you about this before, but
it's all right.
Okay, great. So Project Egg, #1 podcast for educating and inspiring entrepreneurs to turn their dreams into reality. The assets that we have are the interviews. And we have probably 75-ish interviews and another 15 workshops. We get to know the person behind the business owner, and we get to learn a little something in the meantime. Workshops, strictly business skill building. So we have about 75 interviews, 15 workshops.
Okay.
And one other asset is an email autoresponder sequence of about 115 days, where the typical pattern, if you will, is 2 value emails, giving value in the form of sharing an interview, then followed up by a recommendation for either a tool or a piece of software or a product or something of that nature.
Like
that's kind of the pattern. So value offers, the pattern's about 115-day sequence. That's what we have. So where do we go from here?
Who is on your list?
So I've run a couple different list building campaigns on Facebook. I created a cheat sheet for passive income of 67 different sources of passive income and exchanged that for somebody's email address. And so I probably have like 300 to 400 engaged subscribers, and then another 1,500 not as high quality subscribers, because I was doing some testing, and I was testing on countries outside of like the big five where you get a lot cheaper results, but not as quality of information. So that's kind of what we're working on.
All right. What's your social presence?
So we have a Facebook page that is not heavily utilized,
Okay.
And that's about 1,100 people on it. A Facebook group that is probably the most engaged, of about 638. An Instagram of like 6,500 people, and then a Twitter of 3,500 people, and then a YouTube channel of 880-ish people.
Okay. How often do you post on your YouTube? Is it just the interviews like this, or do you do other content as well?
So mostly it's the interviews. Every once in a while, I'll put in some content of just myself doing stuff. And
so right now you monetize by affiliate links?
Pretty much, but there's very little monetization because, there's just not that big of a volume of the list.
Okay. So what are your overall goals? What's your vision for the egg?
So I see Project Egg truly becoming the #1 podcast for entrepreneurs to come to get education and inspiration to turn their dreams into reality. So I want to help people who they want to start a business, they don't know what to start, or they know what they want to start, but they don't know how to implement, and they're ready to go. They just don't know how. And give them like let's do it, get them fired up, and then actually teach them, okay, this is how you do it. These are the things you need to do. These are the things you don't want to do. This is how, I would recommend going about this. This is how you do marketing, get financing, figure out your purpose, your mission, your goals, and things of that nature. Also exposing people to different stories of entrepreneurs and really inspiring them and giving a community for support.
Right. Okay. So do you have you don't have an online course at this time, right?
I actually have I have a couple online courses. One of them is about content creation and repurposing, which I have not done a very good job of distributing. Another one is on Kindle publishing, because I'm an author as well, and I have a lot of experience with writing and publishing books. And then a third course that I'm putting out is on the actual writing of the book itself. And then I have a freebie course on Facebook ads.
Okay. So can I just make a general observation?
Please.
When you were talking about your podcast and being this place for people to come and get inspired and to learn and want to take the leap and need to know the steps, your energy level was like up here, and you're so excited to help people go from where they're at now, like stuck in whatever they don't like doing or whatever it is, and they want to go here, and you want to help take them from here to here. You were like, yes, I love this. And I'm like, okay, so what do you have online? What do you have online to teach people right now? Oh, well, you kind of went down a little, like, oh, well, I have these things, right? I can teach like books, or I write things or whatever. So my encouragement to you is to take all the things that you just mentioned about financing, money, steps to take to become your own business owner, to be the entrepreneur. I want you to go back and listen to the things that you said, and you basically laid out like 6 modules to a course to take people from where they're at now to start their business. That's where I think that your fire is. I could be wrong. We've never met before today, so I might be completely off. But if you want to have your podcast be the #1 place for inspiration and information on how to get to here, then it only makes sense to lead people to take that program, right, that you offer. Whether you collaborate with other experts and create this massive, amazing things where maybe and people that you've interviewed already, like say you want to teach funnels and that, you know what I mean? You might not even have to recreate all of this content. You might already have all of this content in your network that you can now create this amazing conglomerate of an online program to help people that are coming to you to learn and to grow. So That's my assessment so far, right?
Right.
So to me, I feel like, and I'm not going to go into like how much money do you want to make doing this or whatever. Like normally if it was me and you and we're private and we're talking on, we're drawing stuff out on the board, we would go deep like that. But for the purposes of this, I see that you need to build up that email list. You need to build up your subscriber list on for your podcast, right? That's your main vehicle right now. But to make sure that you've got a way to monetize the backside of that podcast. So whether that is having affiliate links for people like me on your podcast, like, oh, okay, well, here's my course or my program, and you have your own specific link to now promote that. You get a little bit of income off the back of that, but you're also helping people in the meantime. Or you promote your own products. So I look at John Lee Dumas as like the pinnacle entrepreneur podcaster, right? And he is a master of monetization of his podcast, whether it's helping promote products from people that he's interviewed, or now, you know, he has several products of his own in you know, Podcast on Fire or whatever. He's got these classes. Mm-hmm. So I really see that you can model what he's doing, but in your own way, because you don't want to teach podcasting, but you want to teach entrepreneurs how to get from here to there. Maybe it's not even here to there. Maybe it's just here to here, right? Because I like to do things in bite-sized pieces. It doesn't mean that it can't have like a massive success all at once, but it can be overwhelming if you try to eat it all at once, right? Like it's the elephant thing, eat it one bite at a time. So my assessment is build your list, drive more people to subscribe to your podcast. I don't know the process of how people on your podcast, if they help promote the episodes as well, that to me would be really, really valuable. And maybe looking at some joint venture opportunities for people that do something similar to what you do, but you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can partner with these people that have similar passions as you do and similar goals and work together. I do that all the time. I don't have the bandwidth or the need to go and recreate something that somebody else is already doing. So I just find those people that do something that's going to help serve my community and bring them into it, right? And we all win that way.
That's awesome.
Did that help? I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. And again, I really do appreciate you, being so gracious about, doing this live case study, if you will. I think it's really cool. And I really think now we talked about the process and now we see it in action. Like we see, okay, well, we talked about it. Now let's have an example. Now we have that example. So yeah. I really do appreciate you, humoring me in that way, if you will. So, Amanda, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. I really do appreciate your time. I actually have one more question for you, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Is there anything about yourself that you think is an important part of who you are that I did not ask you about today? In other words, what did I miss?
I don't know. There's a lot about me. I'm a very complicated woman, Ben. Not really. I don't know. I've had quite a journey, and I'm going to be totally honest and vulnerable that I haven't shared all of it ever. And my story will come out in time. My coach is really prompting me to start doing that. I was just at a mastermind, like an amazing mastermind event last week, and Jay Shetty was there and shared a little bit of his vision and his advice. Les Brown was there, also sharing similar advice, and it's got me thinking even more about putting myself out there. But yeah, there's a lot more to me than I've shared. I'm just not ready to share it yet. Okay. But I will say, I'll just reiterate the power of yes. And I'm sure that's a book somewhere because it has to be. If not, I'll go buy the domain right now, powerofyes.com. There has to be something that is, when you start saying yes to not just opportunity, but even to yourself, giving yourself that permission, it changes everything. And I'll also add one more thing. that, and I said it before too, like I didn't do any of this by myself. None of it. I've had and still have an amazing support system and surround myself with the most spectacular people on the planet to help me along this crazy journey, right? It's exciting and it's fun, but if you are on this journey too, you know that it's up and down, and sometimes the downs are really, really low, and sometimes the ups are really, really high, and it comes to a point where you think something's wrong with you, that you could be just so on fire one day and then can't even get out of bed the next. Like, it's crazy, this journey. But if you realize you have so many people in your corner that have been there too, and that support you and want to see you succeed, that to me is the key to all of the success. Surrounding yourself with the right people that understand what it's like to be here and want to see you succeed.
That's incredible. So again, Amanda, I want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I can only imagine how busy you must be, so I really do appreciate your time. For everybody who they heard the live case study, they've been hearing your story and everything that you've been saying, and they're fired up. They want to take the next step with you. They want to get more involved. What does that look like? How can they take that next step?
Just go find me at funnelkitchen.com. It's easy. Funnel Kitchen, it's kind of quirky and fun, but yeah, there's a little video there, a little bit about my story, and in a way that you can work together with me. There's also, I'm online on Instagram and on Facebook, obviously, so you can find me there too. I'm a pretty personal person, personable, I guess you could say, and I love connecting with people and helping. So yeah, find me online.
That's great. So everybody, I highly encourage you to reach out to Amanda. Go check out funnelkitchen.com. Go on the various social media channels. And, I also highly encourage you to, again, and I've said it before, but I'll say it again, to really go back and listen to the things that Amanda's been saying, because she has been dropping some serious value bombs. And, there's so much information that hearing it once sometimes isn't enough. So I highly encourage you to go back, listen to this a couple times, really let all of the wisdom that Amanda's been sharing sink in and start implementing it, because you can get as fired up as you want hearing it. It's like, all right, this makes sense. I'm going to go, find my purpose and do all these steps and implement this awesome funnel and have this just killer automated sales funnel. And then you wake up tomorrow and your motivation's cut in half, right? So take these things, listen to it, and start implementing. And if you need a little bit of help, as I'm sure some people will, reach out to Amanda. I highly, highly encourage you, go to funnelkitchen.com. Don't be a stranger. Say hi. We're real people, and reaching out is the absolute best way to take yourself to that next level. So Amanda, thank you again so much. I really appreciate your time. To everybody else, thank you so much. It's been another Project Egg interview, the #1 podcast for educating and inspiring entrepreneurs to turn their dreams into reality. Have a fantastic day.
Thanks, Ben.